Welcome, coffee enthusiasts, to Brewing for Equity, the podcast brought to you by the Coffee Coalition for Racial Equity. Join us as we embark on a flavorful journey through the world of coffee, exploring every nuance and perspective through the eyes of Black and Brown people in the industry. This podcast is a space dedicated to amplifying the voices and experiences of those who contribute to the rich tapestry of the coffee world. We are committed to building a racially diverse and equitable coffee industry, so let's brew conversations, share ideas, and foster a community centered around the love of coffee.
Everyone, so my name is Aisa Fu, but everybody calls me Aisa. I've been working in the coffee industry in London, actually for 10 years. I started as a roaster, then I went into quality for green coffee and then sales. I currently manage the operation for in Europe and UK for Ensembles, which is a Mexican coffee company. And I am originally from France. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Lauren?
Okay. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm the founder of the Little Coffee Company. Similar to Isa, I've been in coffee for maybe about 10 years now. So I started in Jamaica, where I'm from, and I have a little farm there. And then I moved here and I set up my own brand. It's a social enterprise, and the whole foundation is around sustainability and social inclusion for women farmers.
Awesome. Thank you. Dina?
Hi, I'm Dina. I'm still what you would consider a baby in the industry. Maybe been in it about 5-6 years. Started off as a barista for a big chain, and then I slowly moved to becoming a barista in like specialty coffee, and then slowly progressed to an ops manager for a coffee tech company. And now I'm a production roaster for Caravan.
Amazing.
Thanks, Dina.
Thanks.
Hey, yes, I'm Dumo. Now sort of roasting for myself. Have a small roastery based in Battersea. Been in coffee now 18, 19 years. Started working for a sort of commodity grade roastery, and then sort of did some training and sort of got the specialty bug. And yeah, we're here today. So I've done everything from barista to eventually teach myself how to roast, actually, because I couldn't get any time behind a roasting machine. So decided to just teach myself. Bought a little stovetop roaster, and yeah, we're here today.
Nice. And we were just talking about your space.
Yes.
Your space, and you're hoping to open it up to others.
Absolutely. I think maybe tying into some of the cuppings. I've only been to one fairly recently, but sort of tagging along to just having accessible space, neutral territory where as equals we can all learn from each other, but also push each other and allow each other to grow with no agenda other than just to see us all thrive as we should. So like a safe space, if you will, just to encourage growth for everybody, because we can all grow, and it's actually stronger if we all grow together. And so to provide a space like this with no conditions, I think hopefully will go a long way to helping encourage everybody in their career, wherever that is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And Dina, you recently hosted and organized an amazing coffee cupping meetup. And I was just curious to know how that came about, why that came about. In fact, what is a cupping in the first place, for listeners that may not know what cupping is, if you don't mind explaining?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, amazing is operative words. It was a small cupping.
It was good.
But it was an important one.
Really
Yeah,
good.
it was an
Really
important one for sure. A cupping is a tool used by people in coffee to get a sense of the quality of the coffee that you are roasting or selling, or that you're even buying. Um, you grind a coffee, you put hot water in it, you let it sit for a couple minutes, and after you break the crust, you have a taste, like a little sip of each cup, and you determine whether the coffees are of a certain quality and of a certain sort of status. Um, if it's gained certain points above 80, you can consider it specialty coffee. If it's less than 80 points, then it's technically not specialty. So at Caravan, we do it twice a week anyways, production cuppings, just to get a sense of what we're selling and what we're doing. If the profiles that we're roasting against are working, or if they need to be updated and changed for whatever reason. So yeah, that's what cuppings are. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to add about what things are, what they do.
Cool. And basically, what inspired you? Why did you decide to host a cupping?
Actually, I was inspired by the first event that you and Pravin and Ciala put together. When I found out you guys had a POC cupping, I wanted to ensure that we could maintain and sustain such an important event and social for diversity and inclusion, inclusionary reasons. Open the space up to people of color and in coffee, and just to make it that much more accessible. And when I went to the first one, I found it super inspiring. And given that I work in a roastery with enough rooms to host the cupping, I wanted to make sure that I can do my part in ensuring that we continue having those events. That's really the only reason I wanted to do it, just to make sure that we had something that we can call our own.
And when you say, I guess this can be open to anyone, but when we say something that we have for our own, are we saying that that doesn't currently exist? And yeah, if it doesn't currently exist, why is that? Why is it necessary? Why was it necessary? Why is it necessary for us to have this for ourselves, or us, if that makes sense? Or why, or maybe to Lauren, why did you decide to attend the first cupping? Like, there's loads of cuppings that happen, I guess, throughout the year. What was it about this one that sort of brought you to
The first one.
the first one?
I think it's two things. I mean, first of all, I wanted to be a part of the conversation, and obviously to support you and things. And I just feel, the first days I feel as though I am not really involved in the coffee community. I know there's like a really strong coffee community, and I know it might sound strange that I'm saying that because I have a coffee company, but I feel like I've almost built it in isolation. And, just as everyone's saying here today, just community is everything. And sometimes you don't need to, stress and sit alone by yourself. There's support, and just by having conversations, just by having the conversations I've had this week, I realized that I've sat in my mind thinking about certain things or thinking about ways to do certain things. And there are other people who, have different experiences and can be there to help. So it was a real eye opener for me to hear the difficulties and the issues that are being faced, because the perspective I come from it is very much farmer based, and there's issues from the ground where I'm from in Jamaica with exporting and difficulties from that perspective. But what I didn't realize is the difficulties that were faced by people who just wanted to enter competitions or, just access to certain things. I didn't, maybe naivety, but I didn't really understand those problems. And I digested that, and I'm still digesting that, and I definitely want to continue being part of the discussion, and also make sure that I align my business with being part of the change, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And Isa, you attended Dina's event, cupping event. What brought you to that particular event?
So I wanted to go to the first one that Dina mentioned, which was the one that Praveen and Ciela organized, and I couldn't, unfortunately. So I wanted to make sure I came to this one. Well, the main reason is that, well, as I said, I've been around the industry for a while. I've attended a lot of cuppings, but there's always been like a feeling to be kind of like, you know, the odd one out, and not in a necessarily bad way, but yeah, it's we have to be real, and a lot of this, well, maybe it's a bit better now, but like, let's say like a few years ago, there was very little people of color in cuppings, and so I thought it was quite a nice initiative to to have people organize that. I've also noticed that there was, you know, people will say that the same, but there's also few women in general in cuppings. So if you're like a woman of color, then, you know, you can feel a bit isolated when you go to like cupping events in the industry. Not that it's necessarily like done on purpose, but the fact that, well, this cupping was, you know, organized for people of color to feel I don't know, welcome or to feel at ease. I thought it was really nice, and also to just meet new people, because I actually have been around, as I said, but there's always new people that you want to meet, and yeah, and then pretty much everyone that was at the cupping that Dina organized, I hadn't met them before. Well, I met Dina briefly before, but yeah, so it's always nice to meet new people regardless of, you know, their background.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. From my own experience, I've found that when going into spaces where there are not many, or maybe I'm the only, like you said, only person of color, at times I feel like I've felt that sometimes I find it quite exhausting, in the fact that my radar is always up and my sensitivities are sort of on 10, if you like, because I'm always aware of maybe subtle sort of maybe microaggressions, maybe there's some maybe unintentional backhanded comments sometimes made in certain settings. And, you know, it's sometimes hard to almost like relax in those spaces. And I found that with the BIPOC, you know, Black, Indigenous spaces, people of color spaces, I was able to sort of relax within my body and just, you know, be my authentic self, if you like, you know, not having to sort of put myself in a position where I feel like I'm conditioned to behave a certain way because I'm around certain types of people. But I don't know if anybody else has kind of had that sort of feeling when in those sort of spaces.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's such a big topic to unpack, because yeah, it's been this way for such a long time. And, you know, for an arena that claims to be open-minded and inclusive, I think that doesn't appeal to every demographic. And in terms of feeling a certain way, again, whether it's intentional or not, because I think sometimes it is intentional, you know, people shouldn't be made to feel like that, especially for an arena that claims to be inclusive on all fronts. And I think if you are inclusive, then that cannot come with conditions. And I feel like, you know, cuppings like this, and and a space like this, it's imperative to help affect change, to evolve a mindset, and to give space for people to grow within themselves where maybe they're not given an opportunity to grow. And it's not a question of ability, right? To a degree, it's the space to action your ability and to put that to use. And as I said, collectively, we can all learn and grow with each other. And it's far more effective when it's a coalition, if you will, if it's like-minded people sharing a space, creating space, growing together, and achieving. And I think it's really important, especially for future generations. We're maybe the first to do this on this level in the UK, certainly. And that's saying a lot for an arena that claims to be so forward thinking. I think it's backward in so many ways and no different to society in general, actually. So I think things like this are really important, not just for us to help us know what on a deeper level we know to a degree in terms of validity. We already are valid, regardless of what anybody else says. And again, as I said, it's not a question of ability. We're all very capable and have a lot to offer. And I think starting with our own selves first lays a foundation to express outwardly, because it just makes us more sure of who we are and what we have to offer. Because we're rooted in good, and that's the key thing, is that it's rooted in growth, and that's the differentiator. So yeah.
Thank you for that. It's really important. And I think in what you said previously, you mentioned the term safe space. What makes a place or space safe? Like what is it that makes it safe?
I think for me, it has to start in acceptance, because that then determines how you move forward, right? There's no condition to acceptance. You just accept it, right? And I think for people to feel safe, they can truly unlock what's within them. I truly believe that. And I think creating safe places allows for that growth. And it's a personal journey, first of all. What makes it even more impactful is when we collaboratively work together. It compounds all of the above. And it's a powerful tool to unlock self. And that's the journey, I guess. And then collectively, when we all, again, combine all of that together, it's a very powerful thing. And it's actually, I feel like it's infectious. And that's how it should be. I think.
This is really important. And this next question is just for anybody really, but is it our responsibility to ensure that the spaces are safe and inclusive, or is it the responsibility of others to ensure that the spaces that they currently have are inclusive, or they're working towards making those spaces inclusive? Whose responsibility is that?
I don't want to say something controversial, but it's rooted in good, and it's maybe a hard truth. And again, I don't want to definitely.
Go ahead.
I think it's only a thing if it's important to the creator of the space. So if you're conscious enough and aware enough for it to be important, your space will be that. Whether that's intentional or not, because it can be both, right? But that's why I like this space, is because it's consciously choosing to create a safe space for everyone with no agenda to be.
Personally, I've always thought, I mean, up to recently, let's say, I'm always more into inclusivity, as in like not separating groups, right? And making sure that everyone is in the same, like all spaces are for everyone. But then I also realized that doesn't necessarily always work, and then, well, maybe sometimes you have to, if you're not happy with the state of things, then you have to do something about it. And which is why, when I found out about this, like, BIPOC cuppings, I realized that, well, actually, maybe we have to do something about it, because if we just kind of always feel like we're hopeful and, like, eventually things will get better, but kind of expecting others to do it for you, it doesn't always work. And to be fair, like, on my own experience, that's why I've decided that, well, if we want change, then maybe we have to be like the driver of the change. And if I feel like there's not enough safe spaces, then maybe I need to be part of the creation of the safe spaces. And then hopefully that will lead to, more safe spaces opening, and then eventually my, like, ideal of everything being inclusive will happen. But I think sometimes being passive or like waiting for things to happen, well, it doesn't always work out. So for me, that's why I think that, if you're not happy with the situation, then you have to do something about it. And it's kind of our responsibility, in my opinion, but also like the responsibility of everyone. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Anybody else want to add to that? Good. So following on from that, one of the comments that had arisen when we created the first POC cupping was that perhaps we are being segregationalist and or what's the word? We are imposing segregation in terms of these cupping events and actually being racist as well. So have you encountered any sort of misconceptions or criticisms regarding sort of POC cupping events or coffee events that are specifically for POC folk? Or if not, how would you respond to those that may criticize events or meetups or cuppings that are specifically for BIPOC folk? That's to anyone.
Sorry, yeah, I would challenge. Sorry, I don't have experience with people disagreeing with having a BIPOC cupping. I think a lot of people that I spoke to favored the idea behind it. But in terms of responding to those comments, I would challenge them and ask them, have you made these comments at cuppings where you haven't seen people of color there? Are you just as outspoken in those cuppings to see those sort of inclusive and diverse groups of people? When you walk into a room with other, and there's 20 white guys in a room, do you speak up and go, oh, well, the people of color, where are the women at? Or are you silently enjoying that space and then only piping up when you see that you're no longer the center of those events? Is that I would challenge them, is that the real issue? Is it a question that you're not centered in those events, or is it, a genuine concern in question of, more inclusive, diverse cupping and just coffee events in general? Those guys, they really said that to you. Did they message you that?
They really did. So on the very first cupping that Pravin from Sunday Roasters and that we created, so we published it on Instagram and put up the posts and everything else, and for the most part, most of the, like you said, most of the comments and most of the sort of the feedback received was very positive, and from all types of folk, but there was this one comment which basically the energy behind it and the tone was such that it made me think, oh, this is making you feel very uncomfortable, and I really want to know why. I've wanted to know why this particular individual felt so uncomfortable with, if you think about the number of cuppings that take place, even just in London, there's like tons of cuppings that take place, and this one made this particular person feel so uncomfortable, and my initial reaction was to react and to respond with with some few choice words, but I decided not to. And I thought, actually, this could be a teaching moment, but I hadn't yet figured out the best way to, respond. But yeah, they really did not like it at
There's
all.
always one. There
There's
is always one.
Yes.
There's always one who just can't be part of it, who can't get it. They get it, but they know how to play the game too. You know what I mean? It's very insidious.
Very much so, especially as they hid
Bias
their
to reason.
identity, remained anonymous, and used a fake name, and all that kind
They
of.
know what they're doing. It's not ignorance. Do you know what it is? They say it's ignorance, but nah, you're playing the game. You can get away with it. I think that's it.
Yeah,
I find it quite interesting because I don't know. Well, obviously, you guys are gonna remember, like, in 2020, back in 2020, when the whole George Floyd thing happened, and then everyone was like posting like black squares, and all the industry was like, oh yeah, we really need to like rethink of the way we like as an industry, how diverse we are, and like including more people of color, etc., etc. Well, I don't know about you, but personally, like if I just see how things were 4 years ago and how they are now, I don't see a huge difference or a huge increase of in people of color being included in specialty coffee. I don't really see the difference. But then interestingly, if you start doing something and you propose, as we say, a safe space for people of color, then it bothers some people. It's quite interesting
Mhm.
because very hypocritical, in my opinion. And again, like we say, this cupping is for people of color. If you're not a person of color, you don't have to be offended. It's just not for you, right? And you don't have to be included in everything. And yeah, I mean that's my opinion on it. And I'm sorry you had to deal with that because it's very, especially anonymously, which is always easy online to do things anonymously. But yeah, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. It's pretty low.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, but yeah, it actually made me think about. It taught it taught me something as well in terms of how I react and how I respond in those sort of situations. Yeah, it's another one of those moments, huh? Sorry, Lauren, I think you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say, just as what Dina said, there's always one, and I feel like it's not even on us to teach anyone anything. I feel like you keep it and push it forward and know that what you're doing is creating that safe space and it's for the benefit of everyone. I don't think you feel the need to respond. And the fact that they anonymized their name, they knew what they were doing. So I mean,
Absolutely.
it's just not right. I wouldn't even spend any time or energy on that at all. The other thing with DEI, I feel like across the board, not just in coffee, we're seeing companies and different organizations really roll back their DEI policies. So they brought a lot of people on board to create all these kind of KPIs for DEI and everything. And now, for example, like JP Morgan, they're completely ripping them to shreds and making them more quote unquote inclusive because it made other people feel uncomfortable. So when you're looking back at all the promises that were made after the murder of George Floyd, I mean, what has really happened? I mean, what change has really occurred? Nothing in
It's
my
lip
mind.
service.
Nothing in my mind.
Yeah. Lip service all the way.
I think, I agree with everything that's been said. And if there were safe spaces we wouldn't create, but we feel to be the only safe space, first of all. Secondly, we're conditioned from birth to be happy with token gestures. Yet the very people setting those token gestures wouldn't even settle for that as a minimum. But for us, it should be seen as, oh, it's you should be happy with just that. And I think, as you were saying, Issa, to take matters into your own hands and to create said safe space. For a long time, I never went to events because the few that I did go to and the experiences that I had with the professionals that I was working with led me to believe that going to said cuppings would only compound that token, sort of gesturing. And life is already wild day to day. And having to justify yourself yet again, it just becomes tiring. And someone wanting to be free, why should that be something to insult someone else? I just want to experience the same feeling that you feel. And the fact that I don't feel it, the fact that you say, what can we do to make sure you feel how I feel? And the key is just feeling safe and valid and accepted, right? Even though we can know it to a level for ourselves, those spaces in society are very few and far between in general, let alone something like coffee, which is even more concentrated, right? So why should coffee be any different to society? It's no more evolved because it's still the same people that are running, instigating, controlling, if you will. So again, for sure, sorry that you had to weather that. And sadly, I'm sure there will be more. But I think a space like this means that we can collectively carry that, and that's the beauty of these spaces, is that we know what it's like. And I think the more that I think on it, us taking action is sharing that burden, because it's heavy to carry for any one person, right? And I don't think it's about us carrying it individually. And I think spaces like this, it just goes along. Just being able to talk about it, it's such a relief of pressure that we carry day to day. And it's one thing at work, but on the way to work, stepping out of your front door, before you've even got to work, there's 20 battles that you have to endure. You get home, you've endured the battle on the way to work, the battle at work, the battle on the way home to work. Then you get home and you have to be present for your nearest and dearest, having been through 100 battles. Then you go to sleep, you replenish, prepare for the battles ahead the next day. One cupping, it's crazy the effect that one meeting with like-minded people can do to replenish you and to keep you good. And actually, we're doing right. We're good. I just needed that half an hour. I feel solid again. And the fact that an hour cupping can infuriate someone that has no idea what it's like on our level, it's laughable. But again, taking ownership is super, super, super important. And I get really excited by just the potential for what will come out of these meetings, and having other spaces like it. And it's hopefully it will only grow. I believe it will. And imagine having like a network globally. Crazy.
I have a question. Just it might sound silly, but because I'm not, I don't know, I'm in the coffee world, but I'm not in the coffee world at the same time. The cuppings, how do you have to be invited? Because I mean, obviously, I'm only cupping my own coffees, right? So normally, I don't really know how it works. Is it that you're not getting invited, or is it just an invite that's sent out and then you turn up and it's like
It depends. It depends. Different cuppings can be set for different people. I know a couple weeks ago there was a green exporter company called Raw Material, and they had a cupping, but that was cupping primarily earmarked for roasters or green buyers, people with purchasing power. in their department or in the company they work for. So those were the invitees, but 95% of the time, cuppings are like open to anyone.
Yeah, they like public
Yeah,
cuppings and yeah,
public
like
cuppings,
groceries.
yeah.
Yeah, for example, they would just post like
They just post it.
yeah, post
Yeah.
on Instagram, for example, like, oh, we're doing this cupping that day, you know, and then whoever wants turn up, really.
Yeah,
I
you
think
might
it's
just have to
often like that.
RSVP. Yeah, exactly.
Similar to what similar to what we put it up on the social media and stuff. Okay,
Exactly.
I'm gonna rock up at some cuppings next week. Watch me. I'm gonna rock up.
Invite me. Let me
I'm
know.
gonna
We'll rock
rock
up together like a
I
force.
want
Yeah.
to
Scare the
know
crap out of these people.
one. Like, what is going on? Who is being rude to my people? No, I'm gonna
I'll come
rock
up.
up. I've got
I'm
it
gonna
in
rock up in my
my
Black Panther suit, everything. Let's go.
Yo, what's
They're
going
not
on?
gonna know
I
what
didn't
hit
even know
them.
this was a thing. I'm rocking up. I'm looking on social. If you see any cuppings being advertised or anything, I'm turning up next week.
Turn up,
That's
turn up. I'll send you some. I'll send all of you
Send
some
me some, please.
IG pages where I find a lot of really like interesting cuppings, like the ones that I screenshot and sent to our group chat and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll add you guys. I'll send the
Yeah.
links to over.
I want to go. I want to see what people are talking, what people are saying, if they're how they. I want to know. So I'm going.
definitely, we have to break these barriers to entry, and
Absolutely.
the gatekeeping that needs to end. But there were quite a few cuppings during London Coffee Week as well. Went to a few during Coffee Week. They were quite good. So yeah, we should all get together, as you said, and just go. Yeah, for sure.
We should. That's all
Definitely.
go. The ones I'm going to next, I'll just send a message in the group chat.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna go to.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah,
good.
please do.
That sounds good. I was going to say, just going back to something that you said, Duma, about I guess the pressure of having to deal with all these, various issues before even, even before you get back home, and the effects that can have on your mental well-being, physical body. It just reminded me of there's actually a book that maybe some of the listeners might be interested in reading. It's called How Racism is Bad for Our Bodies by Jason Silverstein. It might be something that is quite interesting. I think it's an interesting perspective that people might want to read to get a better understanding on the fact that it's, it can do some real harm, basically. Yeah,
I agree, especially if left for years. Yeah, it can be super, super destructive, for sure. I might get that book as well for me to read. So thank you.
I just Googled it. I think it's called How Racism Makes You Sick. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, by Jason Silverstein. Is that the one? Is that the one you got? Well, yeah. If you look up the author, Jason Silverstein, it should come up. Silverstein. The surname.
Thanks, Georgina. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's interesting. And I just thought I'll pull up there's two other resources I thought might be interesting as well. The other one is by an author called Gregory, I think it's Watkins, A Question of Belonging. That's another book that's quite interesting, A Question of Belonging. And then the third one, which I thought was quite interesting, is by a professor of social studies and African American studies at Yale University. I don't know if he's still a professor there, called Elijah Anderson. And he wrote a paper or a book called Black in White Space, like talking about Black experience within white spaces. So that's another book that's quite interesting that listeners might find of use. So any other comments that we want to make? But I just wondered if one last thing I thought was when we talk about our POC cupping events, is it possible then to have inclusivity in our space that then contributes to the wider issue of systemic racism in, you know, various industries? Are we helping the issue, or is it making it worse, if that makes sense?
I think always better. I think finding community is always a good thing. Just to kind of touch on what Dumo said earlier when we first started this talk, there's strength in numbers. And so I think once you have a stable, strong, confident community, you're able to make much easier changes that is much easier to convince the companies for. If it's just a couple, if you're just the only person, like at Caravan, there's about 45 people at the roastery. I'm the only Black person that works there. So being a single voice against 45 people, that's going to be tough. But having a community to stand behind you and say, this is a really important feat, is much more easier to sort of translate that message over. Not that that message needs translating, but it does need to be hammered down. And they know that. And I know that for a fact because when you look at London specifically as a population, or the UK in general, the population of Black people is 3%. In London, it's much higher. It's like 15% of the population are Black and brown people, which mean, but when you look at the industry and the coffee industry and how that is reflected on the industry, we are a much, much smaller minority. So there is definitely some work happening against what we're sort of experiencing in wider society. So these cuppings are important to hammer down the message that diversity and inclusion is important. And at the end of the day, when we talk about where we're buying the coffee from, I don't want to hear that coffee is being bought from Spain. It's not being bought from America. It's not being bought from England, because those aren't origins. The origins are the global south. You know, Brazil, Rwanda, Kenya, but the people on the back end you can kind of talk about and respect. But it's how we reflect that on the front end. How many Rwandan, Kenyan baristas do we have? You know, that kind of thing. So I think having these cuppings is to send a message, not just to the outer world, but to ourselves that, yeah, we're valuable, we're valid, we deserve to be here, we belong.
Yeah, I agree. I think representation is something that's extremely important. And just taking my own, like example, when I started in coffee, there wasn't that many women roasters in the UK, and there was pretty much no people of color, or very few. I'm sorry if I forget people that were in the coffee industry and roasting coffee and were like people of color, but apart from Dumo, it's kind of like I always knew Dumo was like a coffee roaster, and he was Black. That's pretty much the only person I knew like back 10 years ago, right? But obviously, if you walk into a room or if you see people talking at panels, you see, like photos of, I don't know, the team in like roasteries or coffee companies, and there's never ever one person of color, or even I would say like very few women as well. How would you ever see yourself as, like becoming part of this, like, industries? I think it's really important. And I think as we grow and like creating safe space like that, then we'll become more visible. And then I think, or I hope that in time that would, show other people of color that, yeah, like actually specialty coffee can also be for me. It's not just for like this very specific, identified group of people, then it can also be for me. And then as this is how we grow, I think, and the industry will become more representative of, especially in London, as you said, Dina, because I've always thought it doesn't make any sense. London is arguably the most diverse city in the world. And, like coffee is not something that just white people drink, or it's, and as Dina said, comes from like the global south, so mostly countries where people are not white. Why, in the end, in the consuming world, in London, we don't see these people, like, or it's like, it didn't make any sense to me. I think the power of representation is real, and I hope that as we grow these safe spaces, then it would become like also just more attractive, just people understanding that yes, it's also for them, and then like the industry would be a bit more representative of the population in time. Yeah,
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I think we have to transition from talking about and or appearing to affect change on the ground with the farmers, which is good. But the same has to happen for people of color on this side of that sort of, I don't know
Of
the
the
word.
chain.
Exactly. And I think, how can it be that there's more pictures of people of color, women of color picking cherries, and that's the only representation? What is that? It's part of it, absolutely, but it's not the full picture. And why is it that the narrative, when it comes to talking about people of color, women of color, is only about the work on the ground, how there's help to help improve standing situations? We're putting water pumps in, and we're building primary schools and education for underprivileged, which again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Of course, absolutely, it's good, and that's part of the narrative for sure, and part of the work that is needed. But when so much effort is put on the ground, forgetting our own people here, what is that? So it's all or nothing in my book, right? And so, even just committing to buying from all sorts of cooperatives, like, I just feel like there's a lot of work happening, and we're committing to do a lot of work on the ground for sure, but it's also about matching that this side, because the two go hand in hand, and even allowing for people from the farms to travel here and see what we're doing with their product and how key they are to the movement of coffee globally. Without what they do, we cannot have what we have. And so I've always tried to sort of say that, we're the last 5 minutes of a very long process. And
Yeah.
so our role is just to make them shine, because with what they do, we are allowed to do what we do. So it's only fair that we all benefit. And
That actually makes me think, like what you just said. Could it be a question of fear? If we were empowered on this side as much as they are empowering farmers from the global south, is it a fear that we could work together and no longer center these companies, these roasters, these green buyers? We avoid them and we do business with our own people directly, and we create, a stronger force between us, and the diaspora just grows up. We become empowered.
this is the
Could that be
question.
it?
I
This
think
is the
so.
question.
I think so. I mean, I'd say, like, for me personally, like, living in Jamaica, we just know every year, people that you're familiar with, they would come to the island, buy containers, etc. And it's only because I was able to come to university here where I knew where my coffee was going. I had no idea. I remember walking through Selfridges with a backpack on and people looking at me, Converse trainers or whatever, people looking at me strange, and I'm looking at these tins and various things, and I turned around and said, look, I'm here now. You're not going to sell my coffee anymore. No way. I'm going to do it myself. So it's only by coming here and traveling and really knowing what's going on that you'll be able to really understand, the thing. And I do think there's something in terms of that fear, because why would you need that person anymore? I mean, from my experience, I didn't. I was like, I'm here. What are you doing? Anyways, and you can't tell my story for me. So I think there's something in that for sure. I definitely think so.
Yep. There's the next 2 years.
It's going to be interesting.
We're going to shake some stuff up, people.
I hope so.
We're going to
Yeah.
I hope so.
That excites me.
You're
No,
gonna be like the Malcolm X's of
A coffee. Let's
coffee.
go. Let's
Yeah.
period. Let's
in
go.
no
Let's do it.
small fashion. Listen, all we've seen up until now when it comes to the business of coffee is a standard that has been set with each iteration, right? So All Press sold for what, 170 million or something? Blue Bottle sold for what it sold for. It's not about a money thing. It just sets a precedent for doing more and better and affecting more change. The next 2 years, we're going to shake some stuff up for the better for everybody. I'm excited.
You know what else that I've started doing more is saying no to people that don't, and companies that are not used to, I don't know, smaller businesses or maybe people like me saying no. And it's starting to really like piss people off. But I'm like, look, if you're not aligned with me, if you are not authentically like aligning with my mission and my social values, take my ish off your shelf. Like that is the way I'm moving militant right now. That's how I'm moving. And I don't really like I'm not bothered, or I don't care who it pisses off, but I'm like, nah, for things to change, I'm gonna start saying no to things that just are not right, or so that's how I'm
As
moving.
you should. As you should, because I'm sure in their case, they've set a standard and a precedent that they're unwilling to change. But they
Exactly.
want you to make the changes to adjust to
Precisely.
them when they came to
Precisely.
you, so they should be willing to make the adjustments.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
Naughty, naughty.
I
Set
think it's
those
really
boundaries.
interesting you say that, Lauren, because actually it takes a lot of like undoing, like unlearning things. And I think it's great that you're able to do that.
Oh, I'm getting in
Just
trouble.
no, yeah, but I mean, just
Like,
talking about myself, there's really many times where there's things I really disagree with or I would like to be more vocal about, and I don't. I just stop myself. And sometimes it's just because you're like, well, in the position I am in, it's you don't really want to like piss people off too much, because obviously that can affect us later, like business you do with people, etc. But also sometimes it's literally just because since I was a child, I was told to just, well, yeah, it's gonna be tougher for you, tough luck. You didn't choose the way you look or how you are, but it's just gonna be tougher. So you just have to like accept it. And the least, the more you accept it, kind of like the easier it will be for you. So I think it's great that you're able to do that, and I think it's quite inspiring.
yeah, it comes
They
with
always say it to women
consequences.
too.
It comes with consequences. Don't like, because certain people are not used to
No, of
hearing
course they're not.
no. Like
Of
they're
course
like,
they're not.
what? Like who are you? Like, why are you saying no? It
Yeah.
makes, and it comes with a massive consequence. It's not, but I just I'm tired. I'm
No,
like,
but it's very brave. Like I know, like big changes like that, they always come with consequences, but I think it's really
yeah,
brave.
yeah,
Well, I'm inspired by all of you, so
me too. And
Likewise.
Georgina, where's Georgina?
I'm here. Can you see me?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, Dean, I think you were going to say something. I didn't catch what you said.
No, I said it's especially true when you're a woman of color too. So a combination of both the intersectionalism of both woman and being a person of color, but particularly black, and saying no, that's like a double whammy. Like, how dare you? That's definitely something that I've not adjusted to. So
Yeah. And in Jamaica, you don't say no either in farming, because people are normally older than you and you have to respect them. So if you come in and say no, the culture is different, and the generations are different. You, as like me being younger, I'm supposed to just do what I'm told. So then I go back to Jamaica and it's like I'm mute. Can't say no because of my age or whatever. So
yeah,
those issues there. And
I
then
mean, be vague. Play them at their own game. Don't say no. Say, I'll think about it and I'll get back to you. Or let's think about it again, where we can both maybe make some compromises, because I see where you're coming from, and I think it could, we could try and adjust and align with what my company is out to do. So
That's a good one.
Not necessarily saying no in so many words, just be
Yeah.
passive. You know how the English do? They don't say no, they just go, are you sure?
In the most
Are you
polite
sure
way.
that's what you, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is why I love, these spaces for BIPOC folk, because these are the kind of conversations, I wouldn't have this sort of conversation anywhere else. It would only be within this type of setting. So yeah, these spaces are needed. Definitely, for sure. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so on that note, just curious to know what coffees we're working on at the moment, just, before we end our conversation. What are we working on right now? What are you working on, Lauren? Where are your coffees coming from this time round?
Jamaica.
Yeah.
Maroon.
Big up.
I know,
Big up
Dina.
the
I know you. I know. We need to talk.
We do.
We need
I
to
want to get
talk.
my hands on your
We need
coffee.
to
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah, and some other like regions
Yeah.
as well, but those would be Tanzania. Mhm.
Nice. Dumo, have you got anything interesting happening?
For sure. We've got some Zimbabwean coffee coming through. It's afloat. We've got some Malawi and some Indian, actually. I know there's sort of pockets of India coming through, but I'm quite excited by some of these microlots we have coming in. So I think I'm always one to try and find the weird and wonderful. I tend to go in the opposite direction that everyone else is going, and just to explore how diverse coffee can be. And that's what excites me about sort of, new projects and new companies starting and working with smaller producers. Like, I'm sort of trying to sign lifetime partnerships with certain farms, countries, just to help grow that coffee community on that side. So I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is by actually, I think a lot of people talk about doing good and win awards for doing good, but if we dissect, what will we see? So I think it's one thing to say it, and it's another to say and do. And we're people of action, no?
True.
Right.
So that's what we do. We carry each other, and so that's not just on this side, but on that side too. So yeah, it's the beginning. And I think, and also just to hear from you guys, you might have tried coffees that I've not even got access to. So it's exciting to me to just hear what everyone else is. So thank you for asking that question, because I think that's the only way we can truly grow and have a big impact, is by collectively working together and introducing each other to farms, regions, countries, even, and even processes. Like, I look forward to, actually, maybe just to put it out there, one day us all traveling to Origin as a contingent.
Come to Jamaica. Bap, bap, bap.
Yeah.
Party at Lauren's house.
I just had to throw that in. And I want to come to Zim. I'm
Yes.
dying to come to
Yes.
Zim.
I'm working on some stuff on that side. So watch this space for sure.
That's a great idea. I love
Yeah.
that.
Well said. Well said. Dean, are you working on anything, or do you think we should be looking at coffees from any particular area, or would you like
Any
to?
particular area?
Well,
Well, I don't have much power at Caravan, which I think I kind of prefer. So I don't see any kind of exciting coffees right now, but there might be something on the horizon soon. We've got some coffee from Burundi, which I've always liked Burundi coffee.
Yeah.
It's always very unusual to have Burundi on the shelves, but no, not really. I'm actually seeking out some friends of mine who have their own roasters, Dumo included. Because I'm out just trying to teach myself how to roast on other machines. I'm very grateful that I get to roast on what they dub the Tesla of roast machines, called a Loring. A very expensive, very technologically advanced roast machine. And there aren't many companies here that have access to a roast machine like a Loring. which is why I've stayed at Caravan for as long as I have, just so I can enjoy using that machine and getting all the knowledge that I can about it. But having said that, I don't want to throw all my eggs in one basket. So my idea is to just become more knowledgeable in coffee, especially with technician sort of roles, and sort of becoming more well versed in other roasting, like roast machines and stuff.
You're welcome. Anytime. It's taken a bit longer to get the roastery ready, but the point of having the two machines side by side is when I had the roastery in Mile End, every Friday was open. In that, I would do free sensory, but the spaces were limited. It's 5 people, first come, first serve, and let's just all learn together. So I extend that. You are welcome whenever you have the time. You're welcome to use those machines, and we can learn together 100%.
I appreciate that, and I'm always, happy to help. And that goes to all of you. If any of you need any assistance with anything, that I feel like I can offer help. If you need cover in one of your shops, or if you need to talk something out, if you want to know how something works, I'm always available to you guys.
Amazing. Thank you.
That's my
Thank
future.
You. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
I love this group.
Thanks.
Warms my heart. And Isa, what about you and your coffee?
Yes, so I am currently in Mexico, as I said, cupping not everything, but some of the fresh crop, and building lots with the team. So I will be back early May, and we'll start exporting our fresh crop. So I'll have loads of exciting coffees. We already chatted at the last cupping with Dumo to organize the cupping. Dina has been asking me many times that she wants to try the Mexican coffees. So I'll make sure when I'm back to organize. I would love to organize something at Dumo space if possible, but if not, we can do it somewhere else, and maybe do an introduction to Mexican coffee and present what we do. But with included in the POC cuppings. That would be great, I think, because I will be organizing other cuppings, obviously, for everyone. But I think it'd be nice to have some kind of participate in the next cupping, maybe organize it with Dumo and have an introduction to
For sure.
some delicious Mexican coffees.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Definitely. 100%.
Awesome. So if anyone's interested in attending BIPOC cupping session, Dumo, or Isa, what would be the best way to touch base with you?
Good question. I'm happy to share email addresses, but get in touch on social.
Social.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yes. But then when we have a date and a bit more detail on the event, we'll make sure to share it. And then the power of social media is that we can very quickly share and spread the news, and then anyone who can come, you're welcome to come. It'd be nice to have it because it's going to be summertime ish. I feel it'd be nice to have quite a big nice event and get as many people as we can to come and join, regardless of what they do in the coffee industry, or even if they're not even working in the industry but just interested in coffee. I think it'd be great to extend it a bit, because we need to attract, in my opinion, more people into the industry. So I think that would be having a space like Dumo will be a great platform for that.
Well, this has certainly been an enriching discussion. Lauren, Dina, Dumo, and Isa, your insights have truly sparked lots of reflection, and thank you for gracing Brewing for Equity with your wisdom, insights, and passion. Our listeners and I have so much to ponder. Thank you.